Hey everybody, this is Robot here from Vespa Motorsport and ScooterWest.com here in San Diego. So if you watch my prior videos, I always have a soft spot for the Vespa Rally. So right here we have I think a 1974 Rally because it's got the key switch underneath the seat. This is a US market Rally if you're watching this outside the United States, so a little different. So 1974 Rally. I guess the owner of this scooter in LA, he's had it since the 80s, but then since, got married, has a family, kind of forgot about the scooter. So 25, 30 years goes by, he's had the scooter in the garage. As you can see, cosmetically, it's pretty decent condition considering it's coming on 50 years old now. But we're gonna get back up and running. And I just wanted to show you some of the surprises that we may find jumping into something that's been sitting 25, 30 years. So the first thing I always look at on a scooter that's been sitting for a while is the fuel tank. I'm talking if it's been sitting a year longer, there may be an issue with the fuel tank. So from the outside, it looks pretty clean, but let's see what we got in here. So open up the fuel tank, dun 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 dun, you got the rust sludge. It actually isn't too much rust. It's more or less a varnish in there. The fuel tap looks really bad. I don't know if the camera really gets that, but it just looks like straight black sludge. So what I'll do about this is a very rare fuel tank, and it's certainly not rusted through. If you have a tank that's full of water, it may have pinholes and be rusted through at that point. You're probably just better off getting another tank, but it is possible to braze them and fix them. But we'll probably flush this out first with solvents, then pressure wash it. That works pretty good. And maybe if there is rust and an issue, I'll put nuts and bolts in there to kind of agitate along with muriatic acid. It's all a pretty dangerous process, but we pretty much would strip this tank down to the bare metal. It's quite a labor-intensive job, but it's definitely something you would need to do before putting a scooter that's been out of service for so many years. So let's look at the next surprise. We're going to drop the gear oil and see how that looks. All right, so let's drop the gearbox oil on this engine. I can tell you the good thing about this scooter is it doesn't appear to be left outside. That's always a bad thing if it's been left out in the weather for 20 years. Water gets into places it shouldn't be. Humidity, whatever. So I took 11mm socket. We're going to pull the drain bolt on this engine and see what kind of good stuff comes out. Oftentimes, if there's no oil, or that could be bad because there could be rust forming on the metal parts inside. Let's see what comes out of this engine here. Absolutely nothing. And you can even see that plug's kind of dry. So likely all the gearbox oil is probably leaked out of the motor back when it was in operation. There is a chance somebody may have drained the oil back in the day. May have been diluted with gas and evaporated off. There's many reasons why there's no oil. But no oil in there, motor's definitely coming apart to see what's going on inside before we go any further. It's been sitting so long, it definitely needs things like crank seals and such. So even though these old tires are holding air, I certainly wouldn't even attempt to test ride the scooter or even around the block. They're likely gonna blow out on the first test ride. These are Chiat tires. They haven't made scooter tires for like about 30 years. So now we're on to surprise numero tres. Uh-oh. Well, the kickstart actuates, but it certainly isn't turning over the motor. I could probably even jump on that Kickstarter and it's not going to do anything. So let's pop the cowl off and see what we have here. It is definitely super original. This wire was probably for the turn signal at one point. The original Femsatronic ignition system, much like what I have on my own Rally. Even the rubber boot's still in there, barely hanging in there. But you can see this thing is completely stuck. So what we're going to do is pull the cylinder shroud off. You can see the muffler is already off. Somebody took that off at one point. It's got the original rubber cap. You have the big flat screw here, and I've covered many times, overhauling the motor on these, so you can see every single step. This is just, we're just gonna do an inspection, see if there's any chance we could pull this top end off. It doesn't even have the screw on the front of the shroud. So pull the cylinder shroud off. Rally 200, had the plastic shroud. And you can see it definitely has been used quite a bit. There's some dirt buildup on there. Could pull the spark plug out, probably not going to be very useful to do that at this point. Just get right with it and pull the top end off. 13mm socket for these 200 engines. And there's a spacer in this upper, and it looks like it's going to pull the nut off with it. So that spacer is what the shroud bolts into. Definitely needs to be cleaned. So I got all 4 of the nuts out of the way. There's some washers still in there. Go ahead and pull the cylinder head right off. And there's just enough clearance to get these heads off. Yeah, it looks okay in there. Definitely was well used. Piston doesn't move. Well, in order to attempt to remove the cylinder with it still in the frame, you're going to need to remove all 4 of the cylinder studs. So if you don't have a specific stud remover, I do have a special tool that does that. Put 1 new nut on and a second one. You could typically maybe want to just use those, the old nuts. And then the second one. So you just tighten the 2 nuts there, and then you're able to pull the stud out. Go ahead and do the same on all 4 positions. So all the studs are out. I could tell the cylinder just pulled a tiny bit away from the engine. Looks like we got a stuck piston. One thing about these, you don't want to pry or hammer on these fins. They're just very, very fragile cast iron. But we'll start by getting a mallet. If we had some time, this piston cylinder is certainly going to have to be rebored, so it probably doesn't really matter if you damage the piston. But if you soak this with some type of penetrating lubricant like, I don't know, Marlboro Mystery Oil or WD-40, anything that's just a real light oil or solvent, you may be able to free it up a little easier. Sometimes even heat will do the trick. So let's see if we have any progress here. And one area you could tap on the cylinder a little bit is this spigot right here. The muffler is removed. Kind of try to loosen things up. And I don't think we're going to have too much progress at all. It's not going anywhere. So at this point, I think this might be the end of the video. I'm going to have to soak this for a few days. Alternatively, we'll just pull the whole motor out, split the engine, see how the crank looks. And hopefully the next short video, I'll just update you on how the internals of this motor look and what we will have to do to refurbish this thing. So there you have it, to show you some of the surprises you will come across once you start working on a scooter that's been sitting for 25 or even as short as 5 years, some of the stuff, especially if it's been stored outside. Until next time, it's Robot here from Vespa Motorsport and Scooter West. Check out all of my other Vespa related videos. If you're new to the channel, just subscribe to the channel. Type Vespa Motorsport in the YouTube search and you can see well over 500 videos all about servicing, repairing, accessorizing both your modern and vintage Vespa. Thanks again for watching. Robot here.